Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with Tim Aberli, creator and host of the Board Game Rundown YouTube channel, a board game channel where friends review and chat about their passion for this board game industry. Tim, welcome to the binge. How you doing, sir?
It is great to finally be here. And I mean that genuinely.
It is long overdue, my friend. I had a chance to be on Whiskey Wednesdays, I think it's like 6 or 7 months ago. It feels like a while.
It's Garden Gecko time, right?
Yeah, it's around Garden Gecko-ish time. Yeah, it was, and we talked literally for 4 hours. I couldn't believe it. We had some of our friends in the industry that were pulsing in and out. I know Reed Muscola, he was jumping in, and we had Andrew Stiles, who I ended up interviewing afterwards, is jumping in, and it was kind of funny. I reached out to Reed afterwards. I'm like, you were commenting at the beginning, middle, and end. There's no way you sat for 4 hours. He's like, no. I do some work in the office, so I just kept pulsing in and out. But it is a pleasure, my friend, to have you on this podcast. For those who don't know you, and I know you know a lot of people in the industry, but for those who don't,
oh, no, it's fine.
Can you tell us basically who you are and what is the Board Game Rundown?
Yeah, man. I'm just a lover of board games. I have loved games my whole life. You know, like when I got into high school back in the 90s, got into role-playing games, Magic the Gathering, Warhammer, and then transitioned as I found hobby board gaming in like the early 2010s, right? 2010, 2011. Yep. And I thought, oh, I'll start playing hobby board games and not spend money on Magic cards, and I'll save a bunch of money.
Oh, yeah.
I was wrong because I just kept buying board games. And then, one thing leads to another. I'm helping run like game nights at a game store. And then the owner of that store is like, hey, I want to start a YouTube network. Like, I want to have a Warhammer channel and a Magic the Gathering channel and a board game channel. And I want you to be my board game guy. And I was like, okay. What do you want me to do? And he's like, you tell me.
Oh, wow.
So we had to come up with everything. Like the Board Game Rundown I came up with because I watch a lot of like ESPN, right? And I like it when they got the rundown, like the ticker on the side, right? Like what they're going to talk about. And we've never like totally aped that in our show where we've got our topics all lined up, because we're a little chaotic when we talk, because it's usually very free flow. And but I enjoy like the podcasts I listen to and the stuff I watch. I like it when it's really conversational.
Yeah.
Prim and proper and stiff is fine, but like it feels robotic. I just really I just want to have real conversations with people, like hang out, make people feel comfortable, and want to hang out. And that's in this hobby and in this industry, it is all about relationships. I mean, you can have the cleanest, tightest editing and the best cameras and the best sound.
Yeah.
But if you're a jerk, most people are not going to want to work with you, if people don't like you. So, and I just love the hobby. I love the industry. I love all of the inside baseball stuff. Like when we had you on, I love just getting to ask you all these questions that probably nobody else cared about, but I'm like, okay, so like, how does that work? I was into it, man. And, that's me. That's me in a nutshell. And what you see is what you get.
Yeah, so I got a buddy at our local game meetup that he's constantly peppering me with questions about the industry. He's like, "Oh, what about this and what about that? And how did you do this particular thing and that particular thing?" And I love talking about it. I mean, I think we're all in the same boat, right? Is that passion, however you're coming at it. And anytime, I get a kick out of being able to talk to someone like you who has obviously a lot of experience in the industry. You've probably played way more games than I have, and certainly reviewed a lot of games and gone really deep, and your content is great. But then when you ask me a question of something you don't know and I can actually like teach and educate, I get a kick out of that. I think that's awesome.
Well, and I feel like it makes it, I really appreciate as somebody that tries to review games to have the context, behind the stuff, and if I know like this mechanic was really cool, I want to know how he came up with that. This art is great.
Yeah.
Did he design the game around the art, or did the art come second? Those things are really interesting to me, and I just like having that in my brain. And then even I learned very early, when we first started and we're reviewing games and some of them didn't feel great. And it's like, it was very easy to be like, oh, well, that game wasn't awesome. Didn't love it, blah, blah, blah. But then as I got to know people, learn processes and
Yeah.
and really, really consider like what it takes to make a board game and get it published, like get it on someone's table. Even the ones that I don't love deserve a little bit of respect because that's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And it made me really aware of and conscious of what I was saying, and how I was putting stuff out into the universe. It's one thing if you walk up to me at a game table and we're just talking, and we can have a conversation. But I will always be honest, but I'm also not going to just unnecessarily blast, stuff that doesn't need blasting. My channel's never going to hurt Simon or Fantasy Flight or Asmodee. But if you sent me a game and we didn't love it, I'm going to go, James, who can I send this to, man? It didn't land with us. I'm not going to spend 30 minutes on camera just saying, well, this was junk. Don't support it. But check out all these other games. They're really good. Like, that's no good. That's not helpful to anybody.
That's the greatest gift you can, quite frankly, give to a publisher is to receive the game and say, you know what? And I had a buddy on this who runs a channel, and he was asking me, he's like, oh, I just got this game, and it's just not, I don't know what to do, man. Like, we really, really didn't like it. I really don't want to create content because I know I'm not, you'll be able to see it on my face that I really didn't like this game, and I'm going to have to try to. I said, the best thing you can do is reach out to the publisher and just say, hey, really appreciate the copy. This didn't land for us. Is there someone else we can send this to? We're more than happy to send it to another person because, we know how much effort and time and cost goes into these things, but we don't want to hurt you. Right. So we'll just pass it on. That is an amazing gift. I've actually had that happen to me pretty much on every title we've ever launched, where, I've produced a ton of title, like a ton of, I wouldn't call them preview copies because they are production copies, but they're just, I do like a small run of like 100 copies, right? And I'll send it out to pretty much any reviewer that wants to review the game. Not paying for reviews, but anybody that wants to review it. And with that, because it's an honest review, you're going to have a mixed bag. You're going to have some people saying this didn't land. You're going to have other people saying, I love this game. So anytime, and I've had this happen on every single one or two people will come back and say, this isn't our jam, man. And I'm like, cool. Thank you. Thank you for telling me that. And thank you for saying you're not going to do the content. I don't want content that's not going to help me, right? At the end of the day, I have to sell games. I have to create a campaign that's going to generate revenue so that I can create more games, right? So anything that's counter to that is not really good for me. And quite frankly, it's probably not good for the industry as a whole to kind of get these habits of trashing games and things like that. I actually get surprised when I see someone get a title and then trash it.
Well, those videos, unfortunately, get the most clicks.
They do.
People go online and they say, oh, I hate the negative stuff. I don't want to see anything negative. But I guarantee you, if I put out a video tomorrow that's the top 5 games that I say just are garbage.
Yeah.
And I do my top 5 favorite games, put them side by side, dollars to donuts, man. One of them is going to have 5 times the views as the other one. And, it is what it is.
Well, it's the algorithms, right? Unfortunately, negativity drives clicks. And, I think we've been lucky in this industry. We've gone through waves, right? When I first started, and this is now, almost 6-7 years ago, I remember at that time, there was a lot of negativity on a lot of the forums. And and that's quite frankly why I started this podcast, because I was trying to kind of break through the doors, trying to get in, and no one wanted to I was knocking and no one's letting me in, right?
Right.
And people were getting, in some of the forums, quite nasty. And I've seen that kind of swing, the pendulum swung the other way, where I see the industry has become more of a love fest, right? And I think some of these people that have had negative approaches in the industry where their toxicity has been what their brand is in terms of driving clicks have kind of weeded themselves out, right?
Yes.
The publishers have stopped sending them stuff. If they say, hey, I want to cover XYZ, they have people saying, I'll take a pass. I have a list. I mean, I'll say right up, I've got a list of content creators that I've used in the past where I've just, you know what, I want to put them on the naughty list, but you know, I say, you know, these are not people I'm going to send stuff to, because, you know, if you give me a negative review, that's fine as long as it's fair. I take 100%. That every time. Yeah, anytime I'll take that. I mean, you guys, right? You guys had the one, and it was half the team liked the game. I can't remember. I might even Cities of Venus. And
it was.
The other half hated it, right? And whether it be a bad day or just didn't land for them, that's fine. You and I are still buds, and we're still talking, and I'm still sending you stuff because that's fair. It's not going to land for everybody. What I don't like is people that are like toxic or mean or vicious. Those are the content creators where it's like, okay, I'm glad that they showed me who they are, because now I know not to engage them on future titles and stuff, right?
Well, and I will say, like, if I would use Cities of Venus as a great example of actually achieving what I try to achieve when we have multiple people on, but also as a lesson learned, because the negative review. Okay, so we had basically two dissenting opinions.
Yeah.
And I like having that dynamic, because I think you can, if someone comes at you with some of the negatives of the game,
yeah,
and I say, well, that's not a negative for me, you know, and here are my positives, you know, actually I had an issue with a different thing. Well, now you're providing a bunch of different data points for someone who wants to be an educated buyer, right? Like, well, because I know I've watched other podcasts and YouTube channels, and it's like, well, he's griping about that, but that's not an issue for me. Like, I think that's fine. Actually, I think that's really interesting. The other thing was, there were people on my team at that time that were not taking into account that was a prototype, and that actually was not the full version of the game. And so some of his complaints were actually in the full version of the game that just weren't in the, you know, what did we have? 3/4, 80% of the game?
Yeah, it was like 60, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, and just for the listeners, what happened on that one is we had, like, sometimes you run up against certain timelines. In that case, we had Chinese New Year and things like that. We were still working on the art for some of the cards. So we said, look, let's put together, again, they were manufacturing samples, and our manufacturer at the time, I think the boards have drastically improved since then.
Sure.
But we knew we couldn't provide everything, but we knew we could provide enough to give a sense of what the game is about. That was a learning for me. I'll probably never do that again.
Oh, sure.
Never do that again, because I did have a handful of creators that said, you know, gosh, it feels like this thing's not a full game. It feels like I wish there was more variety. I wish there was more of this. And I'm like, but it's in the brief, man. I put it in the brief.
It is. It was. And so lesson learned on our end, right?
Yeah.
Is for a preview video. Basically what I would do going forward is, like, look, man, if you're that hard on it as a preview, just sit out. Like, we've got other people, and I will bring up your points, you know, and represent them along with mine.
Yeah.
Now, a review is a little different, because a review is a complete, finished, polished copy.
Yeah.
And so when we do previews, we really, we don't try to dig into what's wrong with the game, or like, I don't like this mechanic, because all of that is subject to change.
Yeah. And
anytime.
Here's the funny thing is we changed quite a bit, actually. So I took the balance of the reviewers / previewers feedback. See, the way I define previews is usually paid, reviews as unpaid.
Yes, same.
But, you know, we had a lot of people look at that game, and like, we made a lot of changes. Like, the finished, I'll get you a copy of the finished game. It is so much better than what we had, and some things that we hadn't built into the game, we ended up putting into the game based on people's feedback. And so anytime there was a you know, the feedback where we had a couple of reviewers that didn't like bad things happening in the game, and I'm like, well, I can't really control that, because the entire point of this game is to simulate the struggle.
It's a crisis management.
Yeah, of the scenario of trying to establish a floating city in the clouds of Venus, and you're going to take, you know, 2 steps forward, you're going to take 1 step back. Like, that is what we built into the game. Like, that's the game experience. Yeah. So if that doesn't make you feel good when you don't properly staff up one of your departments and some bad event like a meteor or something hits and it wipes out that part of the station and you lose like 10 guys. I mean, that's the game. I can't like, this is not the game for you, right? So
we call that play better, get good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, get good or choose a game or get better at kind of picking the brief. So coming out of that, so I can't change that, but there's things where there was functional things that people wanted us to change that we actually changed. One was, quite frankly, there was 2 departments where we didn't have those as upgradable departments. They were just departments that acted as your population engine. And I think it might have been the Hunger Game. One of them had said, hey, like, I wish I could actually upgrade those 2 departments as well. So we actually made those upgradable as well. So literally every department on that station is upgradable. But it really made me look at, okay, how do we adjust the brief? How can I get better at explaining this and prepping and giving you, the content creator, better intelligence going into this?
Yes.
So that you can better gauge, even if you should take a copy. So when the 2 that I mentioned said, this didn't make me feel very good. I didn't like this game because I didn't like the people dying, and a lot of people die in this game.
Yep.
I looked at that and said, that's my fault. Because obviously I didn't brief them well enough on what to expect, because I'm pretty sure if they knew what they're getting into, they probably wouldn't have even taken a copy, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like...
Yeah, like, don't take a game that you are not predisposed to like, or you know what I mean? You're already... Well, I don't like that kind of game. Well, then why'd you take one?
It's like somebody taking a polyomino that hates polyomino games, right? It's like...
Exactly.
You're probably not going to like your experience here. So...
Like, what are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah, so you learn as you go through the experience. But I think overall, this industry has evolved into something quite special, where you have competitors trying to lift each other up. So publishers are trying to lift up other publishers. Content creators are trying to lift up other content creators. It seems like truly this kind of... rising tides raise all boats mentality is very much alive in this industry. And, it couldn't be a better time to get in. I'm thinking about your channel, and you guys have been going for a few years here now. Like, when you first started out, was it just like a cell phone? Like, how did you guys start out? Because you guys got quite nice gear. Like, I saw you at Origins, and you guys were geared up through the wazoo, right? So, how did it start?
Okay, so I will just say, for us, I won the lottery with that. Not like actually won the lottery, but I had the game store owner come to me and go, hey man, I'll set up, I'll make my back room your set, and I'll get the mic, I'll get the cameras. You get me the content. Like, you have a place to film and we'll edit it, and you just give me the content. And so it started off with me just grabbing some buddies and pulling my own games off of my shelf that I liked and wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
And then as I got a little more comfortable with what we're doing, I would like ask the game store owner, hey man, can I get a copy of that? Like, to review?
Yeah.
He's like, yep. And so he'd give me a copy, we'd open it up, we'd do our thing, and we've refined the process, and then it was first like, and it was tough really early on when you've got like 300 subscribers and you're like emailing or Facebook messaging designers or game companies, hey, we'd love to review your copy. And they would be very politely submit, the Google form, with your stuff, and it would just be crickets. There were people that really gave us a shot early on, that are doing pretty decent now. And I will love them forever.
Yeah.
Even if they never talk to me, they will always hold a special place in my heart because they gave us a shot very early.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that and respect that, because not that we're like, big dogs now, but I mean, we're just under 7,000 subs. We're growing, and we keep growing pretty quick, because we hadn't even hit 5,000 at Gen Con 2023. And then between Origins and Gen Con, we just really caught this nice wave. And but it's all building relationships, and like even you, right? Like I think Cities of Venus was the first game we did for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And thank God you were cool. And and at least saw the good in what we did, and we've gotten better. But I honestly, we did right by Garden Geckos, right? Like that game
Oh, you
came out.
guys are great. Don't get me wrong. Even Cities Venus wasn't bad. You're beating yourself up more than you should. I mean, you guys did a good balanced review, and I can't complain about that. I got to meet you guys, which is great, at
That
Origins,
helps.
literally right after that, which is cool. Reed Muscola, a mutual friend, introduced us. Did his game, which is Catnip Auction House, which we published.
Yep.
And you guys did that one as well. It gave us a chance to actually do a live feed at Origins, which again was super generous of you guys. I look at this, and did you have imposter syndrome at all when you first got into this?
I still do, man.
Do you?
I
Yeah.
still, oh my God, I still do. I'm like, I fanboy, right? Like
Yeah.
I meet designers, I fanboy. I get excited to talk to you. I know we're buds and I know we're
Yeah.
cool, but like, it's like, oh, I get to be on Board Game Binge. Like I'm excited. Like I'm pumped up for it. It's a big deal for me. I appreciate that.
Any advice you give to people who maybe are trying to get in but might feel that level of kind of
Ignore
imposter
it.
syndrome? Yeah.
Ignore it. Ignore that. If you got something to say,
Yeah.
put it out there. Try to come up with a really nice, clean, eloquent way to say it, but put it out there and then grind. Don't get discouraged. It's all about the grind. We've been doing this for 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, like we started 2 months before COVID happened.
Wow.
And we were able to now, thankfully, I mean, we all have day jobs, right? We do this for fun. We make a little bit of money and we get some games out of it, which is awesome. That's the dream. And I get to be friends, and make all these industry friends, and meet designers and publishers and stuff. But that's what you got to do. You got to grind. And then if there's local shows or shows that you can get to, go there and introduce yourself to the designers, to the publishers before you ask for anything.
Yeah.
Just talk to them, give them a chance to get to know you, because you're going to have a lot better chance of getting an opportunity to review their games if they know you and can talk to you. Because I can tell you that there was times where there was companies that I reached out to 20 times and never heard a thing. And it's not because I believe this. It's not because our channel has 5,000 more subs than we did the first time.
Yeah.
It's because I got to know somebody there, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Tim, what do you need? Like, what can we do?" And my approach is, "How can I help you? What can I do?"
Yeah.
Like, what do you want signal boosted? You know what I mean? Because I know, like, I have relationships now with some companies. Obviously they got a game that's hot. They want people to talk about it. But now it's like, well, that game came out a year ago. They may not be as looking necessarily for content, but because they like me and they know, it's like, hey man, can I get a copy of that? Like, I'd love to do something with it. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. And some companies the smaller ones sometimes are a little tighter, and they're like, no, we're moving on past that. We're going on to other things. And I find that that's more with like companies that are like publishing houses and not like, they don't necessarily design their own games in-house. They acquire publishing rights, for different games, and then distribute them for a year or however long they have that contract. And then they move on. Again, a thing I did not know about the industry until I got into it.
One thing I've found is kind of weird is, first of all, how loving and giving people are. Like I had Jamie Stagmeyer, I think it was episode 5.
Oh, he's an angel.
And talk about imposter syndrome, talking to that guy. I mean, it was, I felt like who am I to even be able to interview this guy like on episode 5?
Yes.
I feel more confident now, obviously 326 episodes later, and I know a lot of people in the industry, but at the beginning it was tough, right? And I still find sometimes when I'm trying to connect with certain publishers or designers, I'll often go through Kickstarter and say, hey, this is my channel. I'm just looking to chat with somebody. I want to create some content here just as a short interview. Great chance for you guys to get some exposure in your game. But really, I want to understand the person's story behind this. And how often do people actually talk about their stories? Usually they're talking about the game, but not the person's story. And that's what I get excited about, is the story.
Yes.
But there's still that wall. Like, breaking through that wall is tough, right? And like, I know enough people in the industry now that if I'm hitting a wall and I really want to talk to that person, I'll just reach out to another designer that I know knows, and I'll say, hey, I'm trying to reach so-and-so. Can you, and then they'll do a, mutual introduction on Facebook, and boom, the person's like, oh my God, yeah, totally. Like, let's chat. The ironic thing is the more levels you have to go through to talk to somebody, sometimes the smaller they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is weird, right? So like like Jamie, you're talking to him pretty much directly, right? Or most of the bit, like I had, Dane from the op, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out. I think I talked to his. He's a CEO, obviously, and is one of his, his direct report, but was in contact, but he responded directly.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes when someone's like, "Oh, can you reach out to this person or talk to this? We've got an administrative person on our team, and they'll deal with it, and they'll try to put it into my schedule or into that person's schedule, and you're trying to get through. And it's like, really? Like, I just need to talk to that guy. Like, can you not just ask? Like, why all these levels of weirdness, right? To try to make it seem like they're bigger than they are. It's very strange.
I'm lucky. Well, like, cause I'm not, I mean, we have interviewer or publishers and designers on and stuff, but like, the op, that's a great example. It's a company I have a great relationship with, and
Dane's
have really, really enjoyed. I've never met him. I know cool. Their marketing. I became friends with their marketing person.
Yeah.
And so whenever something comes out that I'm like really, pumped up for, I just shoot off an email. I'm like, hey man, like, remember us, Board Game Rundown. We love you, but hey, if you were looking for some content, like, please. And like, it's never even, it's like, hey, yes, this is coming your way. Boom, you're on the list, and it's just I have yet to meet a bad person or somebody I didn't like that worked at the op. Everybody's been cool that I've met there, but I still haven't cracked to the highest level.
It's cool because we all no matter whether someone's a CEO or they're just starting out, we all get out of bed one foot at a time. We all have the same passion about games. It's just, different levels of kind of working through the machine, right? But at the end of the day, when you talk to any of these people, it's like you and I talking right now, right? It's just two people chatting about something they're passionate about. And
that's it.
I think that's what makes it really cool. What's some advice you'd give to someone that's trying to get into this industry? So someone wants to either start a YouTube channel or something like that. Like, what would you say? Like, what kind of gear do they need even?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, honestly, all you need is a cell phone and like a $20 microphone off of Amazon. Yeah. Find one that's with good reviews, and you can do it. I recommend. I know you use Zoom. I have good experience with StreamYard. We use that for our live streams. Great. It can go to multiple platforms. Not all of them, but it can go to multiple platforms at the same time. Find your niche, right? Find something that helps you stand out. Yeah. Because just one guy in front of a camera just going, I really like this. I mean, that probably isn't enough. Like, I'm not saying wear a stupid hat or something like that. Yeah, I say that as a guy who wears hats all the time because I'm bald. But find something that helps you stand out. Do something unique with your review. Like I saw one guy, he does reboxings games.
What a brilliant idea.
It's just all reverse him punching out stuff and everything, and it looks incredible, and then there's people that do videos that show you how to you can't fit all this game in one box without a box lift, right? And it's like, and somebody figured it out, and they do these videos to show you how to do it. I mean, do tutorial videos. Just find something, and then, like I said earlier, do not get discouraged. It's a grind, but start off with stuff you really like, because you're going to naturally be passionate and excited about it. And that will come through because, I'll use Garden Geckos because we genuinely love that game here at the Board Game Rundown. And
it helps that your colleague looks like the gecko in the box, right?
Well, right. Well, that was what I was going to say is we, we did it. And then it was sort of like an ask for forgiveness. Cause it's like, I really hope James is cool with us goofing around with this. But we Photoshopped my co-host Bob over the gecko on the box because he was making the face of the gecko on the original box.
Yeah.
And, we just goof around with stuff like that. But I've yet to do that with a game and have a publisher or a designer go, oh, don't do that. We don't like that. They want to see you having fun. I mean, it's a freaking board game, right? Have fun with it. Enjoy it. And, so be positive, be fun, let your natural energy and enthusiasm come through and you will be successful.
Here's where you can network really quickly in this industry. And I was just kind of thinking of this. If someone really wanted to get in and say, hey, I want to kind of start meeting some publishers and so forth, and they're not sure where to start, go online and get a set of lapel mics, which you can, the wireless ones, which you can get for now. the Bluetooth ones that connect to your iPhone. I used one at a convention. I think they cost $30.
Mm-hmm.
Go to a con, so get tickets to a con. You don't even have to get it there as media. I mean, if you can get a media badge, even better. You can apply for a media badge, but just go to the con and go booth to booth and say, "Hey, I got a little YouTube channel here, and I'm doing little 5-minute interviews with designers. Do you mind if I film your game and get a couple words from you?" You're gonna get 99 yeses out of 100. Like everybody is like, "Absolutely, I want people to see
Yes.
this game. If you're gonna take photos of it and put it online, giddy up, let's go." You will meet so many people so quickly doing that.
Yes.
And you can leave cards behind, grab their cards if they don't always have cards. Sometimes they have scannable badges, but it's a way for you to make some very, very quick connections. That's probably the fastest way I can think of in terms of
And
networking, right?
yeah, and just getting to know people, right? And
Yeah.
get to know people, and they're like, yeah. There was a guy. Okay, so at Origins a year ago, 2023,
Yeah.
a mutual friend of my sister's, who I played games with before, and he designed a game I really like called Tammany Hall. He is friends with Martin Wallace.
Yeah.
Martin Wallace came to Origins to receive like an award, like
Yeah.
from Gamma, and he was like, "Oh, hey, Tim has a YouTube channel. He asked my sister, would he want to interview Martin Wallace?" And I'm like, "Well, get the heck out of here. Of course I want to interview Martin Wallace.
Yeah.
Like he's the guy, you know?" And so, but it was all because I was at my sister's house playing games one time. This guy comes in, didn't know him from Adam.
Yeah.
We're playing his game, and I'm like, "Oh, this is really cool." And he's like, "Oh yeah, you like it?" And he's like, "I designed it." I'm like, "Oh, right on." And he remembered that though. You know what I mean? And so then when it was like his chance to, sort of give back, and do right by somebody else,
Yeah.
he's like, "Hey, I can get Martin over to your booth, on Friday at 3 if you want." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah. It doesn't matter what else we're doing. It's Martin frickin' Wallace. Like, get him in the booth." And we told everybody
Yeah.
Martin Wallace is going to be here. We had a crowd around our booth at Origins when when I got to sit there and interview Martin Wallace.
Oh, that's cool.
And you want to talk about fanboy, and I know I like name drop, but like totally fanboying over this. But it was like you and me. I mean, we were just having a conversation, and the next day he kept coming by our booth and just being like, "Oh yeah, I was in the unpub room looking at this and looking at that." And it's like, it was the coolest thing because we all felt like we had just made a friend, but before this guy walked by, we're like, "We're not worthy," but then he started coming by and we're like, "Oh yeah, Martin was just here. You missed it." That it wasn't like it went from Martin Wallace to just Martin, and you could just, talk to him and hang out. And so, you just never know, but get to talk to people, play their games, show genuine interest.
Yeah.
They will want to talk to you. They will want to do stuff with you because you never know, man. They might have a really good game coming out, and you get to be on the ground floor of that, and you get to help celebrate and lift and signal boost,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
So with this, with how this industry's kind of ebbed and flowed over the past few years since you guys have been doing this, what have you made any changes to the channel going forward, or have you given any thoughts to kind of looking out towards 2025 now? What is it that, is there anything you've put into place, or is there any vision you have as to kind of where you want to take this?
Yeah. So, like I said, when we first started, we were pulling games off our shelves and reviewing games that we love. Never in a million years thinking we would ever meet any of these designers or publishers. I mean, I had met designers because I would go to Gen Con and work booths to get free entrance.
Yeah.
But as we grew in confidence and skill and fan base, right? We've now started doing, we never charged a dime for anything early on. I won't personally right now. I will not charge for a review. I will ask for a copy of the game, and that's the only payment that we take for a review. And even then, if it's not a game that if I kickstarted a game or I bought a game and I review it, if it's negative, it's kind of negative. I mean, or I'm just not going to put the time out there. And I only will do that with huge companies And usually try not to do that unless somebody else has something positive to say
Sure.
about it, so that we've got a little bit of give and take with it.
Like balance, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of balance. But now we started charging for previews, and we started charging to do how to plays, and we've even started now charging for like filmed plays of
Mm.
games. And we've done content for like kids table board games where they paid us to do stuff,
Oh wow.
which is awesome
Mm-hmm.
because we love it anyways, right? And we wouldn't take the money if we didn't. We would
Yeah.
just be like, oh man, like, do not send any money. Like, where can we send this? That hasn't happened yet, but we would. But so we've done the scope of really short, maybe an hour long, like is the longest. To we Bob and I did, we just did, and it'll be coming out soon. It was a 5 hour play, and it's a war game from it takes place in the Mediterranean theater, and it's like World War II.
Wow.
And this game is amazing if you like war games. Like it's a whole new level. Obviously, we didn't charge the same rate for that as we did for a 20-minute trick taker game,
Yeah.
but they wanted the whole shebang. We were kind of like, well, we'll put out a price. We don't think they'll take it, but if they say yes, we will do it. Now, these were guys that we had met at Origins, and then we met them again at Gen Con, and then we met them again at Origins again. And we kind of built up this relationship, and we kind of were reluctant to even give them a price. And they're like, no, no. And then, I don't know. It's a lot, it might be too much, and we don't want to offend you. And we put out the price. They didn't even bat an eye. They were like, done. And we're like, did we ask for enough? But honestly, we were probably still way cheaper than a lot of the big channels.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And but we had such a good time doing it. I mean, they live in Cleveland, and I live in South Bend, and they came from Cleveland, stayed the night, and then we've even filmed a bunch in studio with them and hung out with them
Oh,
during
that's
the
cool.
day,
Yeah.
played the game with them. Then they went home, left their prototype with us because it's massive, and then so they didn't have to ship it. And then in the following weeks we filmed all the other content, and did stuff with it. But I mean, so we're gearing more towards some of that. We're actually going to start advertising on like the Gamma site. Like, hey,
Mm.
you want, content? These are our rates. Reach out. And
Yeah.
again, we're not going to. You send me a deck of playing cards with a game you've designed around it, and we don't like it. I'm not going to do a video. I'm not going to take your money.
Yeah.
But if you do something really crazy with it, well, yeah, sure. Like, let's go. Um,
No, that's
so
amazing.
we're growing the channel like in that way. We're trying to do some more fun things. Like we started a Patreon, and we wanted to have something to give to people for being patrons, right? So when we play a game for review now, or even preview, we will film it, and then we put up the raw, very loosely edited content on the Patreon
Oh, that's awesome.
before the edited version's out. So you see us eating chips and drinking pop, and cuss words are coming out, and we're breaking into song, and you get all the dumb movie quotes we say while we're playing games.
Yeah.
But you get that stuff, and we've had a really good response to that. Like, we've asked people like, hey, like, is that cool? Like, what do you, and they're like, yes, more, because imposter syndrome aside, people watch the channel, not just because they want to hear about the game, but they like us, they want to do stuff with us. And it's really hard to acknowledge that. And it feels really weird saying that as someone with persistent imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're paying us, for some reason they're paying us. So we're going to keep doing this stuff and being us. So that's kind of where we're going, is we're kind of going in that direction, but really also trying to, I want to be my friend's biggest cheerleader, right?
Mm.
So James has got a game coming out. I want to talk about it. I want to, I want to get on the top of the hill and shout, to anybody that listens to me about your game. I want to talk about it. Like Garden Geckos was the last one we did with you. You know what I mean? And we freaked out about it, loved it.
You guys were very kind on that one. It
threw everything out we could. We got other friends in the industry, friends that we, and they've done nice things for us because they're like, hey, if you're looking for content, you need to talk to these guys.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's just kind of maintaining and building and fostering all of those relationships. And so between switching a little bit more towards monetization,
Yep.
Which helps out,
Natural
lets
evolution.
lets me justify it to my wife, but also trying to still come up with like new and fun kind of things. Like a thing we're going to do next year is we are going to, if there's one game that's like maybe really popular or that I really love, but the other guys haven't played, or just one guy hasn't played, we're going to make him play it. And then we'll do a review with him and find out what he thought of it.
Cool.
So, we don't know the title of it yet, but it's like, we made Bob play this. And then, you'll probably see some clips from the gameplay, and then we'll do a little review of it. And then that's an opportunity also to shine a light on some older games, because they still need love, man. Evergreens are still really good. It's not all just new hotness, Cult of the New.
That's true.
But just some goofy things like that, try some stuff out. You see what sticks. If it doesn't, then we'll move on. We'll do something else.
Well, certainly you guys deserve all the success you've got so far. I mean, I'm a big fan of your channel and your team. For those who want to check this out, I am going to put a link in our show notes to the Board Game Rundown. If you go on YouTube and just type in Board Game Rundown, you'll find the channel. It's definitely worth checking out. At the very least, check out Whiskey Wednesdays, where it's like a 4-hour kind of video-a-thon with a designer in the industry usually, which I think is really cool because you can kind of get the inside baseball on some of this stuff.
Yes, sir.
Which is cool to be able to fly on the wall. Please extend my my well wishes and happy holidays to the rest of your team. Bob, Mike, I know that you guys are a really cohesive team, and it's just a real pleasure to watch you guys, and I want to wish you all the best in 2025.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all the things, all the things.
Sounds good, buddy. You take care. Cheers.
Thanks, James.
This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.